Welcome to Sales Training for Podcasters, the podcast designed to better your sales process. We'll be sharing tools, tips, and techniques, whether you love sales or hate sales. If you've got a product or service to sell and a podcast, you've come to the right place. Now, here's your hosts, podcast strategists, Doug Sandler and JJ Flizanes.
Hey, welcome back to Sales Training for Podcasters. My name is Doug Sandler.
I'm JJ Flizanes.
We love being here week after week after week because this is like the stuff this is getting to the core of like the business building stuff. You know, you and I were sitting down earlier today at the cafe kitchen table, and we were working through just like some of the funnel stuff. It's kind of cool. I love all that stuff. I love it. And I used to hate it. I used to hate it. Anything that involved a funnel. Hey, if you're listening to this and you're a funnel hater, you have come to the right place. Because I'll tell you, I was the biggest funnel hater in the very beginning. And oh my gosh, I could not imagine my life without some of the components of a funnel right now. I couldn't live my life without.
It's very convenient. Everyone needs to understand what a funnel is, because even if you don't have a quote-unquote funnel, you have one in business because you need one. It's part of the sales process. And on to the sales process, we want to continue on the sales training journey and sort of outline what's to come over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, possibly next couple of years. And the first thing is that understanding there are different parts and components to selling and sales training. And the major three that we're going to cover throughout the sales training process on this podcast. The first one would be the mindset piece, which I have to tell you, I hate the word mindset. I hate the word mindset because it means how you think, and it doesn't necessarily equate to how you feel or how someone else feels. So no going into this, it's more about how you think, because how you think influences how you feel. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about nonverbal selling through podcasting. It's important to understand this connection of the feeling because it's the only thing you get to translate through a podcast because no one's seeing you.
Hold on, because this is really important. Now, so did you catch what JJ was just talking about? Nonverbal selling through podcasting. Now, you may be thinking, what the hell? You have a podcast. It's an audio program. It's an audio recording. Nonverbal selling through podcasting? How do you have a nonverbal clue that you could actually put into play using an auditory medium like podcasting? But you actually can.
And we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But know that most sales training programs don't focus on podcasting. They focus on in-person sales. Sometimes phone sales, of course, but then, moving to having a meeting or doing a presentation or walking somebody through a process. So there's usually some kind of physical component. So that's where the mindset piece, if you will, gets put into play.
And also just keep in mind that when you're talking about traditional selling systems and traditional selling methodologies, we're talking about the relationship between the buyer and the seller. And we're not even there yet. We're only talking about right now the relationship that you have with selling, the mindset, the brain, the stuff, the thoughts, the beliefs that you have when it comes to selling.
And we will break down mindset over the next couple of weeks or months because it's one of those words that really irritates me. Again, because a lot of people think, I can change what I think, I can change my mind. Most people don't realize that 88% of your subconscious mind is what rules your life. That means it's not conscious. It means it's underneath. It means it is the belief systems, the emotions, the feelings, the memories that literally guide your life. And 88% is subconscious. So it doesn't matter how much you want to white knuckle the 12% of your conscious mind, that 88% is going to win every single time.
So let's work on the 88% and not necessarily the 12%. It's probably the easiest place for us to start and the most obvious place for you to change. You want to change the things that you're thinking and the way that you do things, change the beliefs and the patterns that you have in your brain.
So we have this sort of mindset, heart way of being, nonverbal part of selling. And then we're going to move into how you deliver that. And sometimes it's called messaging, and sometimes it's called, the sales conversation, sales clues. It's all of that stuff that we will get into in more detail as time goes on. And then it's the way in which you do it, the process you take somebody through step by step, kind of like a funnel, but more from looking at all the different parts and pieces from emails to to, again, buying clues and shit people tell you to say when the person says this or go down this path. We're not going to be as crazy about making sure you stick to some kind of script or methodology. We don't want that because that's robotic, and especially not on a podcast. However, there's a reason why you learn it in sales training. It's because it's like a funnel, and whether it be a verbal funnel or it be an actual funnel, there is a process that your customer or listener goes through to get closer to you and then become a buyer.
Just know that also what we're going to share with you over the next, this episode for sure, and over the upcoming episodes as well as we get further matured into this process, is that this is stuff that has come to us over the last, for me, since 1982, when I first started my sales process, and for JJ, probably for a couple of decades as well. While she may not realize that the process that she's gone through actually is selling, she was more selling her ideas than actual product or service. Over the last many years, especially since being in podcasting, where JJ has literally created her own economy with her Spirit, Purpose, and Energy podcast, you'll start to understand why we're the perfect people to teach you at the perfect time. It's right now.
All right. So on the topic of nonverbal selling through podcasting, so let's look at what it is that, and we're going to go again deeper into that conscious and subconscious programming at another date. But for right now, I just want you to, especially if you're someone who doesn't like selling. So while I represent the population of people who hate selling or feel weird about selling, even though I don't hate it anymore, because again, I link it to service and to helping somebody, there's an overall kind of stigma about salespeople, being pushy or talking too much, being insincere, self-serving, dishonest, needy, aggressive, focused on you like you're a piece of meat.
Just think about your typical bad sales experience. You go into, let's say, an auto dealership, and you're looking to buy a car, and all of those things that JJ had just mentioned, somebody that's pushy or talks too much or tells you what they want, or even if you're about to buy something in Best Buy or one of the stores that are out there that has a reputation not necessarily for allowing the consumer to do what they want to do. Just think about that sales experience that you had and what kind of tarnished that sales experience. It's usually created by a salesperson that's pushy or insincere or just trying to get their hand in your pocket to take your near and dear hard-earned dollar out of your pocket.
And, we had Scott Ingram on the show last week, and we were talking about those, quota-carrying salespeople. And I'll have to say, and again, I don't have that much experience dealing with quota-carrying salespeople, but I can only imagine that a large percentage of the ones that aren't that good at it probably are the ones that come across as insincere because they're quota-carrying. They have a goal to meet. There's a certain number that if they don't meet it, that they'll either be punished or lose a bonus or they'll lose the game. And when that's the goal, it creates this again, distance from what you're selling and the customer. And there is a bit of insincerity in there, I feel.
Know that there's a difference between you needing to sell something, but because you have to meet quota, and you providing a service to a customer that potentially, or a prospective customer that needs what you have because they actually have a spot in their company that is void without the product or service that you offer.
I don't think I could ever be a quota-carrying salesperson.
It was challenging. I mean, I did that for decades. Decades of my career was spent in, okay, you have, let's just use the number $100,000. You have $100,000 of services that you have to sell by the end of the month. Now, what they weren't saying, they weren't telling you that you need to go out and jam your products and services down everybody's throat, although some of the more ruthless sales managers would say that. What they want you to do is they want you to do the activity that's required to get that kind of result. So that would mean that if $100,000 equates to you making 10 sales of $10,000, then and one sale required you to make 50 dials of a phone or 50 visits or 50 emails or whatever it was, what they're saying is, I want you to do the activity that is required of you in order to make that one sale. 10 of those sales equals $100,000 equals quota. The sales managers that were good helped you get motivated to do the activity because they knew the activity would generate the results. The sales managers that were ruthless, the ones that just wanted the results, would tell you, I don't care what it is that you need to do in order to make that sale. You need 10 sales this month so that you can have $100,000 met in your quota. I don't care if you have to jam that product or service down that person's throat. You've got to make it happen. And that's the mindset of a manager that is not thinking about, okay, well, how can I best serve my market?
And luckily for us as podcasters, we don't have quotas that are given to us by anybody else. Today on our walk, it was a sunnier day than yesterday. It was raining yesterday, and Doug and I wanted to go for a walk, but instead we went and bought a house. And so, well, not quite yet, but today we went on a walk, and I gave us a quota. I said I would like to have 20 more people in our April live event, which we have not announced yet. So this is me just telling you all, even by the time this airs, it still will not be announced officially, but we are doing a live event called Sales Training and Marketing for Podcasters, and it's live virtual on April 10th and 11th. Now, we are not prepared to sell any tickets right now because we don't have the sales page up. We don't have the landing page. We have none of the things in place except that we have some speakers. We have some bit of an itinerary and schedule and an idea.
And we actually already have almost 20 people that...
We actually have 30 people who are going to be there.
They're already ready to go.
Right, but we want another 20. And so I gave us a quota today of 20 people for that live event. I said I would like 20 more people to come to that event. Now, the great thing about the quota that I gave us is that if we don't meet it, it's totally cool. I'm not going to try to force somebody to come because I said I wanted to reach 20. And so let's take this concept of negative sales experience and frame it correctly. Think about anyone who has tried to sell to you where you have had a negative experience. Were they quota-carrying salespeople? Did they work for a bigger company? Were they just trying to get to the sale and they were less sincere or less involved or interested in you? And did it seem like their timeline was more important than your timeline?
The negative sales experience for me always comes out of a salesperson's need or desire to push their agenda on you. You know, I've been in many sales circumstances where I was the prospective buyer, somebody else was the seller, and I was made to feel like if I don't buy this, my life would not be the same. You know, and for me, that isn't. As a buyer, I want to buy. I don't want to be sold. I want to be presented the facts. I want to be given the options, and I want to have that person get out of the way and build a relationship with me. If there is somebody that I have a positive relationship with from them, if I'm not buying today for whatever reason that I've deemed, that I didn't want to buy, maybe I will come back to them later. But I want to do it on my terms, not on the terms of the salesperson.
So let's talk about, as it gave me 10 more ideas about other episodes. Like I want to do the birds and the buying signals and the buying journey of the birds.
Eagles, doves,
right.
Owls.
Because each one of those personalities has a different psychology.
What was the fourth bird again? Eagles, owls, doves.
Parrot.
And parrot, that's right.
Yeah, which we'll tell you all about later.
That's funny because I was the parrot. I couldn't remember what my bird was.
Yeah, and I'm owl, eagle. You were parrot, eagle. There were 5 though, wasn't there? Dove? Did you get dove?
No,
in there?
We had seagull. That was the 5th one that we had.
So we'll talk about that at another point because I think that would be a really valuable lesson to go through personality types in the workplace and in sort of the culture of a workplace, and then how each person needs to be dealt with. Now, we use the birds when we do customer service training because there's only 5 of them or 4 of them.
4 of them. We made the 5th.
We made the 5th one up. But it's a lot easier to just pick the 4 and see where you are versus I use astrology in love languages because I think that's also very telling for people's personality. Not that you're going to go up to somebody's desk and say, "What's your birthday?" I know that's what I would do, but none of you are probably going to do that. So that's cool. So
it's easier than asking what their birthday is than what is your love language.
True. And that's easier to tell, and that's easier question to ask to gauge how people give and receive appreciation and affection.
You want to hear about the love languages, the birds, and anything else that we have to talk about when it comes to defining personalities? That will be done probably at the sales training for podcasters.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, yeah,
absolutely. We're going to do that. Hey, great. That's a great session
to
do there.
Thanks, JJ. I appreciate the compliment.
Doug's love language is words of affirmation. All right, so let's move to the next. So let's take just an honest look at if you're the person who hates sales, and if you're not the person who hates sales, but maybe you haven't been good at it, maybe you haven't been as good as you'd like to be. Do you come across all those negative adjectives that we use? Have you been in a situation where you've been put up to a quota and the pressure is on? And again, I know I'm even going to relate this to the pressure being on if you're someone who has to pay your bills. If you're someone who all of a sudden is in scarcity mode and you're like, holy crap, I got to sell something quickly. And we're going to tell you how to get over that and how to transform that. But if that's the energy behind your sales call or your pitch on your podcast or your conversation or your webinar or whatever, if that's the energy behind what you're doing, again, this is part of the nonverbal selling. People will feel that. Even if they don't identify what it is or can't consciously pick it out, they feel your lack of confidence, your lack of security, your lack of feeling, trusting and allowing and grounded. They feel the scattered energy of nervousness. They feel you getting to the end and hoping someone will buy and, oh my God, I hope I do this right. If that's the energy that you're putting out onto your podcast, they feel it.
That being said, that doesn't mean there is not a methodology in communicating properly and effectively with a potential customer. But it does mean that the energy that you put behind it needs to be non-scarcity. You don't have to, if you come at a sale with the attitude of, I need to make this sale to pay my bills, while you may not think that comes across, it absolutely comes across to your prospect.
So in law of attraction terms, I make it really simple. It's you're in alignment or you're out of alignment. So my question to you before you record that episode, before you get on that interview, before you have that sales conversation or host your webinar, I would ask you, are you in alignment or are you out of alignment? And it's a very simple way to tell. It's based on how you feel. If you feel good, you're in a good mood, you're excited, you feel confident, you feel, again, secure, then you're in alignment.
I have a question, though. What if, and maybe there's somebody that's out there that's thinking this. I know that when you started talking about this is where my brain was going. What if you're not in alignment and you're not going to reschedule every interview because you're not in alignment with with how you're approaching this potential guest, which is going to help you translate a message to your community. So what do you do in order to get yourself in alignment?
It's a great question, Doug. We were going to get there eventually on today's show, but that's fine. We'll do it now.
That's all right. Hey, just so everybody knows, that we come up with the outline for these on the fly. I mean, not as we're doing it, but we literally sat around the kitchen table today as we were having breakfast or right after breakfast, and we started discussing the subject matter. We don't go into outlining the entire show. And sometimes what JJ is going to say, I have no idea. And I know every time that JJ talks to me, she has no idea what's about to come out of my mouth because I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth until we actually have the conversation. So I just want to, I can't be any more open and upfront than that. This is how our podcast episodes go. This is really how my entire sales approach goes also. I don't approach a sale or a prospective customer with an agenda of I've got to close this person. I approach it as though I'm building a relationship with someone. I do have an overall feel for the way that I want it to go. Certainly I want it to be positive, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to go that way. So just keep that in mind as you're not only listening to our podcast episodes, but you're in the middle of your sales cycle with anyone, whether it's a community member or a guest sitting in the guest seat.
This morning, we outlined our welcome series emails for one of our lead magnets, which is the 5 Ways to Make Money Podcasting mini course. If you would like to check it out, it's 5ways-to-make-money-podcasting.com. But we didn't have a follow-up sequence. And mostly because we created it last year for someone's giveaway because I didn't have anything to offer them and Doug didn't have anything that I thought was attractive enough. When you're dealing with, so this is a great teaching tool, we were introduced to a new audience of people. And in lead generation conversation, for me, I've been successful in podcasting because the people who listen to my show know, like, and trust me. And when you give away a PDF, you're assuming someone's going to read it. And even if they do read it, I don't think a PDF is going to convert someone to know, like, and trust you from a PDF.
Well, there's no opportunity for them to. They can they're getting great information from the PDF, but they're not getting to know you as well as they're going to get to know you if you have video, like 4 or 5 or 6 minutes of video and cut up into 5 different segments on that mini course, which was the easiest thing to, and we've talked about this before, it was the easiest thing for us to put together. We own the material already. We already have it in our brain.
Right. So very quick mini course that we did that you're welcome to download and check it out. And we created this email sequence. And I was going through the email sequence and I thought, we don't know who these people are. And we don't know if they listen to any of the shows we currently have. We don't know if they came just from somebody from someone else's list. Are they people with podcasts? Are they people without podcasts? We have no clue. So I created this welcome series email to send people, to remind them to go watch the course, but that at the end to connect with us in another way that's free, to get more information, to come here to this podcast, to go to one of our other podcasts, to download one of our other free gifts that we have, because we got a ton of them. And again, we want to build a know, like, and trust, because we're giving away this information so that they eventually, when they want help, trust us and want us to work with them. Now, back to this nonverbal selling through podcasting idea. So again, in a normal sales training situation, one of the things that gets taught is the difference between how people receive information and how much of it is about your physical presence and your nonverbal communication. And I will tell you, after being in networking events for my entire business career, how many people tell you that 95% of all communication is nonverbal. Okay, I would agree. But when you're on a podcast, you don't have that opportunity except through your voice and the physicality, tonality, and some of the words that you use, but it's still translated through energy. And that energy being your frequency, your tone, your volume, your cadence, all the different parts and pieces that make up your voice and the delivery of the energy that you're feeling. Now, some of it's going to be really good word choices, and some of it has nothing to do with your words. Some people listen to podcasts where the people who are talking aren't that smart, but they're funny or they're entertaining.
It's funny you say that, because I do listen to The Daily with Michael Barbaro, and I just like the way that I like his cadence. I like the way he comes across, his ability to be curious yet confident at the same time. And that's really hard to have those qualities. So just keep in mind that as you present, you're always going to be a student. So be a student of not only what we're saying, and maybe I irritate you, maybe JJ irritates you, maybe you love the way that we both present, maybe you hate the way that we both present, maybe you're staying in touch with this podcast just because of the information only. I think what you'll find is that with many podcasts, you will start to come to the podcast because of the information, but you will stay a fan of that podcast and build that know, like, and trust factor with that host. That host will build that with you if they present the information properly in a way that is soothing and pleasing to you as well.
So that's one of the biggest aspects about this nonverbal selling through podcasts. It's your demeanor. So to go back to sort of sales training and how much of this, we take away that nonverbal posture and facial expressions and gestures and the way that you hold yourself. However, there is a way that you hold yourself when you're on a microphone. There is a way that you hold your body, and it goes back to, again, something we'll dive deeper into in the next coming months, that mindset piece, which is really about how you feel. When I do solo shows for my show, I wait literally until I'm in a zone, until I'm in alignment. I will not record a solo show if I'm not feeling good, because I don't want that energy to translate through my voice into the frequency of what I'm talking about and onto the people on the other side. So I really wait and I prepare. So Doug had asked, what do you do if you're not in alignment and you're getting ready to do a webinar? So let's go back to that question. And I would say there are so many tools that you can do. The first thing that you could do is do some kind of meditation and grounding. You can do a guided meditation that's as long as 5 minutes. You could take a nap. You could go stand outside or do some exercise. It's called a state change. You do need to break out of the momentum that you're currently in, whatever that is, and however you got there, it doesn't even matter. But if you could recognize that you're not feeling good in your body, you're not feeling sure, you're not feeling confident, you're feeling nervous, like more nervous than normal, then you can do a series of, again, I would also recommend that you remember why you're doing what you're doing, and that you question how much you trust this process and how much you trust, again, just the process of even just offering whatever you are offering to your people. Because here's what I went through when I first offered my mastermind for the first time. I was so nervous. It was 2019 at my manifestation boot camp, and Doug was there with me. And I was literally like, I was so nervous because I thought, if nobody wants this, I will definitely feel rejected and feel embarrassed that nobody wants this. But I will also know it's not the right offer. And even though I'm doing this at a live event, I'm not doing it across the podcast where there were more people than the people who were just in the room. So while I was really, really nervous, I said, you know what? If nobody wants it, then I know it's not the right offer. So you have to make peace with that. If you're trying to sell something or invite people on a journey with you and they're not interested, it may not be your sales technique. It might be, but it also may be not the right offer for them. I can't tell you how many times I've created products and programs for people without checking in with them first to see if they even wanted it.
And this is the beauty of podcasting. The ability to do what JJ has done, which is create your own economy, where you actually have the capacity to actually get feedback from your audience. So a prospective customer that doesn't buy what you have, you can it's really easy to ask them why it is that they didn't buy what you have, or what is it that they want. Even better, what is it that they want? You've done that many times with your community. You've asked them what it is that they want. They've responded to you. They wanted the astrology course. Didn't you do that as a response to them? Or was there a course that you did it as a response to them requesting something from you?
Minus my live events, I have asked them every single time what they wanted, and they tell me.
So how great is that, to be able to have a community that is in your community, your listenership, the people that are listening to your podcast, small or large, doesn't matter. You could have 10 people listening to your show. You could have 10,000 people listening to your show. Ask them what they want, they respond to you, and then you build a product or service around that. How cool is that, to be able to know with 100% certainty that the stuff that you're going to offer because they've asked for it? And we teach that quite literally. Unless your podcast audience is asking for something, there is no need for you to build it. This is not a build it and they will come medium. This is a build it after they tell you what they want, and they will come because they told you what they wanted.
Right. So back to, what do you do? And again, if this is not what you're used to practicing, it's going to be different. And you may be like, that's weird, I don't want to do that. And that's cool. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever makes sense for you. You can put on some music and dance around. You can take a shower. Taking a shower is a great way to do a state change because it's easy, and you get in there and the water kind of washes it away, and it's almost like a new day, even if you take a shower in the middle of the day. So do whatever you need to do in order to change the momentum. And I would recommend, and if you're on a time crunch, spend more time. So I have a membership, and it's a $9.99 membership, which includes a podcast.
$9.99.
Right. And currently to date, I've got about 75 people who are in that membership. And I do a once a month membership coaching call, a live group coaching call on Zoom. And I alternate. On 1 month, it's a Saturday. On the next month, it's a Thursday evening.
Before you go on, can I just explain this? The benefit is not the $750 or $1,000 that JJ will make from that community. Certainly, that's nothing to sneeze at. $750 to $1,000, great amount of money to be able to make. Just keep in mind that those people came out of anonymity, stepped a little bit closer to JJ, spending $10 a month to become a little bit closer to JJ and tell her to find out a little bit more about the programs. These are the ideal people in her community that want more information, want more products from her. She already knows. She's separated that group out from the larger group simply by saying, who wants to have more information from me, and are you willing to pay for it? So that membership came as a result of enough people saying, I want more from JJ. You were doing many more episodes that were...
I was doing twice a week because when I started my live events, I wanted extra time to promote the event. And again, I was only using the podcast to film my events. But then when I stopped doing the events and I thought, you know what, I'm tired of doing 2 shows a week for free. I mean, yes, it was part of my marketing, but I thought and I had enough people. We'll do a whole show on when it's the right time to start a membership and then what kind of membership are you going to start. Right. But, it was time. There were enough people. And again, it was an incubator group of a high touch, low cost way to get people a little closer. And again, these are the people that buy the things, and there's a clear path for them. And we'll explain that at another date. But so whatever it is, so I'm explaining that I do these calls, and I make sure when I do them on a Thursday, I take at least 2 hours from the last client until this call to get into a space of receiving, into alignment, to feel good in my body, to feel rested. I do not do clients up until the moment I'm about to get on a group call with my group. So I'll take a nap, I'll read a book, I'll do a binaural beat audio, I'll do a meditation, I'll take a bath, I'll go for a walk, I'll watch a show. I don't always watch a show because sometimes that's not necessarily the best use of my brain power, but I will try to rest. So I'm at my best for these people who have come closer to say, I want a part of you. So again, lots of different tools that you can use. Just do something. Do something that speaks to you, something easy, something with no resistance, and commit to it and see what happens when you do it before you record, or before you jump on a webinar, or before you go speak somewhere, or before you get on a sales call. And if you can remember all of the things that we've talked about on this show so far, because I believe this is episode 20. So we've had a ton of sales calls with podcasters who talk about serving, connection, serving, being the solution to someone's problem. If you're focused on your selling, you're not focused on them. You're focused on you. So do what you need to put the focus back on why you're even doing what you're doing. How does it help the other person? And then get out of your own way so that you can be in a better space. Now, just to go, we listed a lot of different adjectives about the bad sales experience and all the things people think of when they think of selling that makes them go ick, that makes you, the podcaster who wants to be more successful. This is what stops you from being and embodying a new energy that when you speak, you can translate a better experience with people that will result in more connection and sales and people in your funnel. So let's just go over what that looks like, because again, the negative ones were pushy and talking too much and being insincere and definitely feeling like they're either shady or dishonest and needy and aggressive and focused on the money. Those are all the negative ones. Those are easy, and that's why people hate sales and salespeople. But what if we reframe selling as someone who's honest? Someone who is, again, a connector, someone who's a problem solver, who is client-centered. And here's the physicality. So back to nonverbal selling. When you embody the principles and the states of being relaxed and calm, when you are relaxed and calm, you're more trusting. People will trust you more. They will trust what you're saying. They won't be triggered by your, in law of attraction, if there's something going on inside of you negative, it can activate the negative inside of someone else. So when you're the calm, centered one in the room and on the show, it brings out and connects with the calm, centered part of them.
What do you say to the person that's listening, though, in the community that is saying, well, when do I sell then? I understand being positive and not being pushy, and I get that. I totally get that, and I get that. As Doug Sandler, I get that as well. That's all stuff that's good. When do you know it's time to? There's got to be a conversion there somewhere. So how do you know when that timing is right?
Well, when you're solving their problem and they're ready to receive what you're ready to give. I did a coaching call with someone on my show recently who's in my membership. She had signed up for this free on-air coaching session like a year ago before I even started the membership. I found the papers when I was cleaning my office and thought, oh, wow, she's in the membership and I only want to do these for people who are in the membership. So I asked her, do you want to still do it? And she said, yeah. So we had this whole on-air live coaching session. And what I started to hear in the coaching session, you can go find it. It's on all the shows. What I started to hear is that she's not really ready. And she even reached out to me today to say, thank you again for the coaching session. And I've heard it again and I've started to digest the stuff and I've looked over what you've sent me since then. And I'm not really feeling like I'm ready. And I said, awesome, great. So in that case where I've put her on air, I've had a free 1-hour coaching session. I've sent her a follow-up to do. She is coming at me and telling me I'm not ready yet. And I said, awesome. You know why? Because she's in my membership. So when she's ready, I trust she'll reach out. So this is where podcasting is different than, again, a quota-carrying salesperson, because a podcast is a relationship that unfortunately you don't get to decide when your people are ready, because they're only ready when they reach out to you.
Well, you don't get to decide when any of your prospective customers are ready when you're in a traditional selling environment. The beauty of having a podcast is that when they are ready, they are staying with you anyway. They're listening to you. So that's another reason why to keep, stay genuine and authentic and be yourself during your, as you're doing your episodes. That is going to help you tremendously build that know, like, and trust factor with your prospective customer.
So other words and states I want you to think about when you're accessing that nonverbal selling through a podcast, all right, is what Doug just said: being authentic, being confident, being kind, being compassionate and caring. But having that in your mind, and one of the tricks that I tell our mastermind members is to talk to one person. When you're recording your episode, or you're talking to a guest, or you're answering a question, and I know my people love when they submit questions and then I give the answer on air, because I'll have 20 people say, oh, you recorded that just for me. You are talking just to me. And I'm thinking, no, I actually wasn't talking to you. I was talking to such and such person. But when you talk to one person in your mind, then your whole body language changes. Your whole energy changes. You're not presenting. You're not on stage. You're not grandiose. You're intimate. And podcasting is intimate. So you have to remember there is still a nonverbal selling component on a podcast. And it's about how you show up to the mic, who you're thinking of when you're talking. Are you thinking about them, or are you thinking about you? And when you're thinking about you and you're concerned about how you look and feel and how you sound, then they're going to feel the inauthenticity of that delivery. So please make sure that when you're recording your episodes, whether it be a guest with you or a solo episode, find a way to feel good, to be you, to talk to one person, to be kind and authentic and be a problem solver. The most important part is be you, by the way, whatever that means. If you're a loud, obnoxious person, so I've introduced Doug to Entourage, and it's a show that obviously, as if any of you know, it's very old. It's very, very old, but he has just discovered it because we are watching HBO Max and it's offered. And I said, do you want to watch the show? And at first he was like, no. And then now he's like, oh my God, I love it. I hope Vince gets that part. And so he's like all into the show, right? But, right now we're in season 4 and I've already watched the whole thing, but, and Billy is back being a director. And for those of you that have watched the show, he's an obnoxious fuck. Like, the guy needs to be punched in the head so many times because he's rude, he's insecure, he's out of line, he's unprofessional, he's a nightmare. But that's who he is. And I'm not saying he needs to change because I don't like him, but he is who he is. And on one of the scenes, the producer called him all these things, and she said, but I kind of like him. So he's literally being himself, because if you change who you are to fit who you think people want you to be, that is not authentic. And that is not going to attract you the right person.
And keep in mind, that's also the same type of person that if you are not true to yourself and you're attracting somebody, that is when you make an inauthentic sale, a sale that you're pushing on them. You're not being you. Be yourself. As Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everybody else is taken. Be yourself, be that one. Yes, you are going to lose some potential customers as a result of it. These are not customers that once you have that you'll want to have in your stable. Trust me, as a podcast producer, way in the beginning, when I saw green only and I did not see, exactly who I wasn't being exactly who I was being somebody that wanted to put another person on my client list. We churned through a lot of clients because we had clients that were like, they were a pain in the ass. They were a pain in the ass because we didn't qualify them based upon the customers that we wanted to have on our client list. We only saw green. It's a horrible color to see if you're in sales.
So there is a nonverbal aspect to podcasting in the sales game, and it has to do with your energy. It has to do with how you feel. So please take the time, whether you think you need it or not. I beg you to test this out. Test out before your next sales call, before your next webinar, before your next podcast where you're going to mention something. Meditate, dance, laugh, take a bath, take a shower, take a nap, pet a cat or a dog, play with your animal or your kid, call someone you love. Tap into the heart-centered part of who you are, and then think about what you're doing to serve the world and the person on the other end, and walk into that with an invitation for them to get your services or to have you help them problem solve their situation. It's an invitation, because as a podcaster, you make your own quota, no one else does. So take out the stress that you've told yourself you have to make sales to pay the bills, that kind of frequency of scarcity and survival mode, I promise you, will not work. It repels people, and it brings you, like Doug said, the wrong kind of people. So while you may get the sale, you're going to get a headache also. So trust this process. Try it out. We want to hear back from you. So please let us know. Doug at DougSandler.com, JJ at JJFlizanes.com. Let us know. We want to hear from you. We want to know how this is working for you. And again, if you want to check out 5 Ways to Make Money Podcasting, our mini course, go to 5waystomake-money-podcasting.com and check that out. By now, you've probably already seen it or heard of it or have it. And if you haven't finished it, go finish it. Go finish it and see what works for you and see what resonates with you. And then start putting these things into your show.
All right, guys. Well, another great episode. Thank you, JJ, for bringing that subject matter to me. Some of these things I think about, but I don't really spend a lot of time analyzing them. You're right. Most of the stuff that we do, it's all nonverbal communication. And what's so amazingly interesting about that is we're freaking podcasters. How is nonverbal communication actually going to help you in an audio environment? And it absolutely will. It absolutely will. So thank you for bringing the subject matter up. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys again next week. Thanks for tuning in again.
Thanks for listening to Sales Training for Podcasters. To get additional information and to access more amazing content that will boost your sales game, visit salestrainingforpodcasters.com. Hey, do us a favor. Rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thanks for listening.